the Gunhildre clan, the Lawrence clan, and the Rockvindre clan. The Titans of Mondstadt. They were the definition of nobility, their power only matched by the Archons themselves. While the Rockvindre clan was not part of Mondstadt's founding, their recent acquirement of riches, the Storm Terror incident, and many other, sometimes shady dealings put them from lower nobility into the top ranks. They were respected, like the Lawrences were feared, and Gunhildre beloved. The families rarely interacted these days, their operations being on different levels. The Lawrence clan attempting to regain its stranglehold on the populace, the Gunhildre clan doing its best to maintain order in the city, and the Rockvindre maintaining their economic businesses. However, there were 3 events every year, where all 3 families would come together, each event held at a different family estate. And now it fell onto Diluc Rockvindre to host the event at the Dawn Winery. It was uncharacteristic of the redhead to take events like this serious. Rarely were the balls in the winery lavish, simply the bare minimum, to not be an embarrassment, but also not comfortable enough for any other noble to stay for longer than they needed. However, on the last event held by the Lawrence clan, something special happened. The Lawrences loved their royal dances, and while he wanted to desperately avoid being tangled up in them, his eyes fell upon you, the youngest daughter of the Lawrence family. You had a strange beauty about yourself, as he had never seen a woman as frail yet gracious as you. And why were you sticking out like that? Simple. You were the only one not dancing. In fact, it had been forbidden for you. You had been born with a rare disease, bone rot. It made your bones brittle. You had broken your arms and legs many times as a child, from mere tumbling over an uneven carpet. And Diluc's interest had been awoken. It was your helplessness and your innocence that attracted him. You were not tainted by the world outside your home, merely corrupted by your decadent family. Through a spark of luck, he had managed to have a conversation with you. Immediately he felt enchanted, something he had never felt since his affair with acting Grandmaster Jean. But what stuck with him the most was a proposal coming from you. With a gentle smile, you had requested to become pen pals, a concept that you had read of in a romance novel when you were little. Sure, it was a strange feeling for the both of you, especially since this had to happen behind closed doors. Your family would never allow you to have a relationship, especially with a Rockvindre. But Diluc found a way, by using his phoenix. The bird-like creature would deliver the letters from him to you and then back to him. You felt so mischievous. You had never done something like this before. His letters started off as awkward platitude, as he was clearly still discovering what he should write, while you wrote little poems in response. This certainly made your time in the Lawrence estate so much better, and Diluc could not wait to see you again. The winery's maids were in chaos. Diluc rarely ordered them around like that after all. The head maid was for that. Of course, this led to rumors quickly spreading through the subordinates, but thankfully they kept it to themselves. The winery was cleaned from top to bottom. Carpets were neatly replaced. This time Diluc spared no expense. Meanwhile, You were crying on your knees, holding onto your mother's decadent dress, taking good care to tug on it just enough to not accidentally hurt yourself, begging the woman to let you attend the event. It took you 3 days and 3 nights until she caved. A beautiful dress had been custom-made for you as quickly as possible. And finally, on the day of the event, it had been finished. It had less decorations than you expected, but that was for your own safety. Less things on your dress meant less things that could get tangled up, leading you to fall and get injured. Your sister Eula was there too, as your personal bodyguard. While your parents quickly vanished in the crowd of decadent nobles, Eula forced you away from the crowds. Not that the other Lawrences wanted her anywhere near them anyways. They considered her a traitor. Your sister was as per usual frowning, unable to believe she was actually doing this. But she couldn't say no to you. You were the only person she had never sworn vengeance against, and the only member of her family she at the very least tolerated. Diluc, meanwhile, was walking through the mass of people, specifically looking for you. He knew you attended, as he briefly had seen Eula. In your letter you stated she'd come and watch over you. But then, Master Rockwinder. That voice. Diluc forced a smile. Lord Lawrence. Your father had a smug grin on his face. It is wonderful. You finally embraced our honorable traditions. Diluc's lips twitched. And by that you mean... Your father chuckled. I simply could not fathom the last gala you held. I was so offended I couldn't even exchange a single sentence with you. Diluc exhaled sharply. My dearest friend, he suppressed the urge to vomit. What could you possibly mean by that? Your father cleared his throat. Well, the wine clearly hadn't been properly aged. I wouldn't even have served it to my dogs. Well, that was true, thought Diluc. This was his way of saying, go away. It was all thanks to you he brought forth his oldest and most expensive drink today. While I did had better, which was obviously a lie, thought Diluc, it certainly is pleasing to my pleasure. Diluc's gaze shifted to a blue tuft of hair right outside the ballroom. And when Diluc attempted to return his attention to your father, he was already gone. Your father being taken by the cute hors d'oeuvre your maids were serving. This was the redhead's chance. Quickly and skillfully he snuck out. He sighed in relief before looking around. Diluc found himself in his entrance hall. Eula was standing near a window looking outside, and further in the back stood a fragile little thing. The man smiled softly as he approached. Eula was the first to notice him, but just glared daggers at the noble. Do you think they would let me wear one of these? You asked your sister as you pointed at an armor stand that displayed a beautiful silver armor. When she didn't respond, you turned around. Eula? You asked before following your gaze. Seeing Diluc immediately put a smile on your face, and you ran towards him. I have missed you so much, you said. Eula got on her feet immediately. She knew what was going to happen next. But your sister was too slow. In your excitement, you had tumbled over your own feet. Diluc reacted quickly, taking 3 very fast steps forward, while holding his arms out to catch you. He had been so fast. With shaking hands, you clung to him, your eyes still closed. I'm sorry, you mumbled. Eula, in the meantime, walked over to the two of you, Diluc Roquevindre, she said. If I had known that you were the reason my beloved sister is leaving our home, I would not have come. Gently Diluc raised you up, so your feet were on solid ground again. The redhead chuckled, but before you could say anything, you got between him and Eula. Please don't fight. Eula blinked in confusion. She isn't fighting, said Diluc. Eula, on the other hand, raised her eyebrow. You didn't let me finish, dearest sister. She cleared her throat. I wouldn't have needed to come, as Diluc is fully capable of protecting you, as we both could have just observed. You blushed in embarrassment. So, I assume you were the one sending her the letters? Your deduction skills are as sharp as your tongue, Miss Lawrence. Why were you getting the feeling these two hated each other? Eula huffed and then crossed her arms. I hope you two know what you're doing. Otherwise, I swear, there will be vengeance. The cryovision bearer growled before returning to the window. Finally, Diluc could give you all the attention you wanted. It feels like ages, despite it only being a few months. He smiled in response. Would you like to go for a walk? You grinned. Oh, of course. It's getting a little hot in here anyways. Diluc led you outside as you clung to his arm. Slowly, to not endanger you, he guided you through his garden. Specifically, for this occasion he had gotten exotic plants from Inazuma that were hardy enough to survive the weather around Mondstadt. I'm glad it isn't raining, you said, looking up at the clear night sky. We could not share this moment otherwise. He huffed amused. It had been raining 2 days ago, followed by a very short windstorm that blew away any clouds. This miracle of weather manipulation had cost Diluc a month's worth of his most highly alcoholic wine, but it was worth it. The two of you sat down on a bench. We have been exchanging many letters, he said eventually. But I never quite fully understood your standing in the Lawrence clan. You blinked. The Lawrences don't care about anyone but themselves, and who they would like to marry. Our clan has always enjoyed arranged marriages, as this way the blood of our family would not be passed down to commoners. Diluc raised an eyebrow at your last word. Of course, thanks to Eula, I could see a less biased view of the outside. You looked at him. Actually, the reason why I was on the last ball was because my mother wanted to introduce me to the nobility of Mondstadt, now that they have completely given up on Eula, I mean. He half amused. I don't remember them introducing me to you. Grinning, you replied, I mean, they didn't need to, but they probably still see your honorable family as lesser, as you were considered a lower family for so long. He huffed. So, have you chosen a husband? You huddled closer to him and rested your head on his shoulder. Smiling, you said, maybe? He chuckled. What does maybe mean? Depends on how tonight ends. You threw him a cheeky look. Seeing him smile warmed your heart. Quietly, you two watched the sky, until you felt a glint of anxiety. You made an uncomfortable noise. What's wrong? He asked. Nothing. Just, am I boring? He turned to face you, his hands touching yours. You blushed. You're not. Diluc smiled. This quietness is a welcome change from the chitter-chatter of those other nobles. You chuckled. Let me guess. My dear father cannot stay quiet about the wine. Diluc laughed. And your mother cannot stop chasing around my male staff. You snorted, and then put a hand over your mouth. I apologize for such a rude sound. Suddenly, one of his arms wrapped around your shoulder. Remember, I'm low nobility. He huffed in amusement. Did I insult you? He rolled his eyes. Thankfully you didn't see it. Before kissing your forehead. You inhaled sharply as you felt his lips touch your skin. Every muscle in your body tensed up. I am not insulted, he said. You were a blushing, flustered mess. Trying to contain his amusement, he asked, Something wrong? With a smug grin. You kissed me. And? You bit your lower lip. I thought my first kiss would be more special. Diluc sighed quietly. You know, this hardly counts, as it wasn't on your lips. You fidgeted, wanting to ask him something personal and embarrassing. You squeaked. Yes? Would you mind being my first actual kiss, then? Without another word, he put a hand under your mouth, his thumb gently rubbing over your soft skin. His eyes focused on you. Your heartbeat increased as your brain tried to withstand his gaze. Your legs quivered with excitement. And slowly, he came closer. Diluc wanted to give you time to decline, just in case you were truly uncomfortable with this. But you weren't. As his lips touched yours, it was like a cascade of emotions. You were happy. Diluc's lips were soft and warm. It started off as a mere peck, but neither of you could hold it together. It was wet, hot, and hungry. As your lips tried to swallow each other, his hands traveled to your slender frame, with the intent of gripping onto you, to encourage you. They were needing, pleading, controlling touches, but with ever-growing insistence. As they caressed lightly at first, searching for ways to shape you into each other. You were so taken aback by his assault, your own hands were merely holding onto his hips. This clearly wasn't his first, but you were glad that it was yours. Your nose was filled with a scent, and your heart felt like it was about to burst. His force increased further. Soon you'd be unable to push against him. But just when you were about to give up and let yourself fall on your back, he slowed down, still holding onto you. He removed his lips from yours. An unintended whimper escaped you. Short, hushed breaths were coming from your mouth as your mind raced, and a mild vertigo set in. I love you, he said. Master Diluc, you breathed. Please, I want more, you begged. He smiled gently. Well, Would you like to accompany me, then, to my bedroom? Your face flushed, lips twitching.
Yes, I very much like that.